use again. There is first a purification time, then there is renewal time. We are getting very close to this time now.
Il y a 5 milliards d'années, la planète Terre n'était qu'une boule rocheuse inerte, suspendue dans l'espace. Il faudra attendre 1 milliard d'années pour que la vie apparaisse. Les civilisations humaines n'existeraient que depuis quelques centaines de milliers d'années. Mais que savons-nous de ces civilisations déjà si lointaines? Einstein a dit un jour que la rencontre avec le mystère était à l'origine de toute science. C'est dans l'univers énigmatique de la mythologie que se cachent peut-être les réponses aux grands mystères de la vie. D'où venons-nous et où allons-nous? La légende raconte que les premiers habitants d'Amérique étaient les survivants d'une civilisation très développée, balayée par le déluge. Au Mexique, de très anciennes inscriptions relatent une série de désastres qui auraient frappé la Terre. Les ruines sont toujours là, témoins d'une riche culture aujourd'hui disparue, et les mythes de ces cultures ancestrales, quant à eux, continuent de se transmettre de génération en génération parmi les rares Indiens survivants.
We were told that we would see America come and go. And in a sense, America is dying from within because they forgot the instructions on how to live on Earth.
Here in Hollywood, anything more than a year ago is ancient history, and any more than a year from now is too far away to be relevant. Suddenly the world has become very connected. Now I can move from any part of it to any part of it in less than a day. I can pick up my phone and I can talk to anyone. I can look on the internet and look at what literally millions of people are doing all over the world. It's a very different kind of society we have now, and it's changing people.
Il y a 20 ans, Charles Lawrence abandonnait une brillante carrière à New York et se faisait adopter par une vieille indienne Hopi, Caroline Twanyama.
The elders here on Hopi, they had a vision that somewhere long time ago, call it past lives if you want to, that I had helped the Hopi, that I'd been kind of an outcast from my own tribe. In one way, I was at the peak of, or approaching the peak of a very fine place career-wise in New York City. My office was in the Plaza Hotel. It's so funny as we change perspectives of life. A lot of what I was doing before looks like it was just a skeleton dancing in the wind. You know, had very little substance to it. In hindsight, I think, here I am, this orange picker kid from California, you know. How did this get to happen for me? I just had no sense that this was even in the dance card. You know, this was an offering for life.
Le mot indien Hopi signifie paix. Selon la légende, les Hopis sont les premiers habitants d'Amérique. Au début, ce sont des nomades. Puis plus tard, ils s'installent en Arizona pour fonder Oriabi, le plus vieux village des États-Unis. Toujours selon la légende, c'est à cet endroit, en l'an 1100, que le prophète Marshall leur est apparu pour la première fois. Il leur déclare qu'ils sont le peuple élu et leur donne la permission de s'installer sur la terre sacrée. Avant de les quitter, il leur confie des tablettes qui racontent l'histoire et l'avenir de l'humanité. Voilà près de 1000 ans que les Hopis possèdent les tablettes sacrées. On commence seulement depuis peu à déchiffrer les symboles et le sens de ces vieilles légendes et de ces prophéties.
Le premier monde, appelé Tokpella, espace infini, abritait un peuple de 4 races aux couleurs de peau différentes. Chaque peuple parlait sa propre langue et pourtant ils étaient unis et se comprenaient. Mais un jour apparut l'Aveoia, le grand parleur. Il leur fit remarquer leurs races différentes et leurs couleurs de peau différentes. Alors les 4 peuples se divisèrent et se mirent à se battre. Seuls quelques-uns continuèrent à vivre dans le respect des lois de la création. Le neveu du créateur, Sotoknang, vint à eux. Il les conduisit sur une montagne où vivait le peuple des fourmis. Lorsqu'ils furent tous à l'abri, le feu se propagea par au-dessus et par en dessous pour former un seul et même élément en fusion. Tout fut détruit, sauf le peuple élu qui était à l'abri dans les entrailles de la terre. Telle fut la fin de Tokpella, le premier monde.
I think all cultures have had stories about the civilizations that they came from and the continuity, in a sense, with the past. I mean, that is, in some sense, what culture is continuity with the past. I think it's a relatively recent thing that we're obsessed with the present. I think so much has happened in our lifetimes that we tend to think of current events as being much more important than history.
In 91 years, you've seen a lot of things happen. I think that we are in one of the most critical turning points in the life of humanity. And I know that because it is so uncertain and we don't know the future, it's a time of anxiety for many people.
I don't think that people have a sense right now what story they're a part of. They sense that more that they're a part of a cataclysm.
If one reads the Bible, there are some people who still do. Then in the Bible there is an almost explicit promise. God made a promise that after the flood is not going again to destroy the whole world. So that is a great, I would say, great relief. On the other hand, it doesn't say, and nobody is promising it, that we won't do it on our own. Now we have the technology. Now, the point is that atomic bombs are only one of the very many means that we people have in our disposal to destroy a world.
Everything is coming to a time where prophecy and man's inability to live on earth in a spiritual way will come to a crossroad of great problems. It's the Hopi belief, it's our belief that if you're not spiritually connected to the earth and understand the spiritual reality of how to live on earth, it's likely you will not make it.
L'arrivée des Blancs en Amérique n'est pas une surprise pour les Hopis. Selon les prophéties de Marshall, des hommes blancs portant une croix viendraient un jour sur leur terre. Ils savent aussi que c'est le début d'une époque troublée qui apportera division, épidémies, guerres sanglantes et morts.
When Columbus came, that began what we term as the First World War. That was the true First World War when Columbus arrived. Because along with him came everybody from Europe. By the end of the Second World War, we were, in America, we were only 800,000. From 60 million to 800,000. So we were almost exterminated here in America.
En 1881, le gouvernement américain décide de parquer les Indiens dans des réserves. Les Hopis perdent 90% de leur territoire. Une fois de plus, les prophéties se réalisent et la fin est proche. Il est écrit que les hommes blancs sépareront les enfants de leurs parents. Toute résistance est donc inutile quand le gouvernement américain impose son nouveau programme d'éducation. Les enfants sont enlevés à leurs parents et envoyés dans des écoles loin de chez eux.
Grandmother, like a lot of native children across the land here, was ripped out of her mother's arms at age 6. She was taken away. The U.S. soldiers came into these villages and without any concern to life or what they were doing, they just snatched children at any age, and they were thrown in boxcars, train cars. It was just a very educated form of genocide on one level that these teachers put these kids through. But Grandma didn't see her folks for 17 years. She didn't come back to Hopi.
Petit à petit, l'éducation forcée des enfants porte ses fruits. Les Hopis se divisent entre traditionalistes et progressistes. En 1906, le conflit éclate et les traditionalistes sont expatriés d'Oriabi. Ils laissent tout derrière eux, n'emportant que leurs précieuses tablettes prophétiques. Non loin d'Oriabi, ils s'installent près d'une source et fondent un nouveau village, Hautevilla. Lors d'une cérémonie solennelle, ils jurent de respecter les traditions ancestrales et, en temps voulu, de transmettre au monde les prophéties et les avertissements de Marshall. Caroline Twanyama est une indienne Hopi. Elle a appris l'anglais lors de son écolage forcé et est devenue le porte-parole des anciens de la tribu.
Grandma had a destiny to be a spokesperson. And she opened the doors for many, many Indian tribes around the earth to get their voice spoken in Geneva. I became a caretaker, a guardian during the travels of these elders. And then when I was traveling with Grandma, she would never leave here without sitting in council, and the elders would pray for days what was to be said out in the world. And when the time came that she got so sick she couldn't come anymore. We went through actually a legal adoption, not just a ceremonial adoption, because I had to have papers signed by Carolyn Twanyama to say, this is my adopted son. I'm sending him here to speak on behalf of the traditional Hopi.
Après la première destruction, les survivants vécurent dans le second monde appelé Tokpa, la nuit sombre. Ils construisirent des villages, reliés par des chemins. Ils se servirent beaucoup de leurs mains et firent des réserves de nourriture, comme les fourmis. Dans ce second monde, ils avaient tout ce dont ils avaient besoin, mais ils devinrent cupides et commencèrent à se battre. Des guerres entre villages éclatèrent. Sotoknang fait une nouvelle fois appel au peuple des fourmis afin qu'il abrite les quelques élus. Lorsqu'ils furent en sécurité sous la terre, Sotoknang ordonna aux jumeaux sacrés, Pokwangahoya et Palangohoya, d'abandonner leur poste au nord et au sud du monde. La terre perdit alors son équilibre et se mit à tournoyer dans l'espace froid et sans vie. C'est ainsi qu'elle devint un bloc de glace, et ce fut la fin de Tokpara, le second monde.
Now's an interesting time because we've really just gotten technology. And I mean just in the last 100 years or so, which is a moment of time, historically speaking. We actually have human artifacts that are 10,000 years old. They're pots, bits of baskets, things like that. So we know we can build things that last 10,000 years. The clock that I'm building is entirely mechanical. I actually have some faith that mechanical technology will be around for thousands of years, so people will be able to understand it and fix it. Whereas it may be that electronic technology, for instance, will just be a passing fad. We really don't know anything about how well electronics lasts over those time periods. One of the questions that comes up when you design a clock that lasts for 10,000 years is, what do you use for the calendar system?
There are great differences in the calendrical systems of the various cultures on Earth. The Hebrew calendar is registering the year 5970 as of September 1999. They are approaching the so-called 7th millennium. The Chinese calendar is into the year 4650 something. They're within 40 years will be approaching their 5th millennium. The Islamic calendar only shows the year 1420.
One advantage that ancient cultures had over us is that they watch the stars all the time. If you don't have electric lighting, things like the phase of the moon become very important. There's good evidence that the Mayans got very good at predicting eclipses.
Les Mayas étaient de brillants astronomes. 1000 ans nous séparent d'eux, mais ils pouvaient calculer le mouvement des planètes avec une précision qui n'avait rien à envier à nos calculs modernes.
It turns out that one of the only calendar systems which makes sense is the Mayan calendar system. An interesting thing is that that calendar, too, is about to come to the end of one of its very long cycles.
I think the biggest mystery with the Maya calendar is this 2012 date. In the Maya long count calendar, there is a large cycle of some 13 Baktuns, which is a period of just over 5,000 years. And Maya scholars know that this great cycle of Maya time is due to end on December 21st of 2012. Why did the Maya pick 2012? Why did the Maya pick the December solstice of the year 2012 to end this vast cycle of time? The key to understanding is the astronomical fact that we are living in a time of rare astronomical alignment. This particular alignment that we're approaching happens once every 13,000 years. I think that we can understand these galactic dynamics by looking closely at the Vedic cosmology. And their insight is that 13,000 years ago was the Golden Age. And then we start moving through a period of yugas, or world ages, descending from the Golden Age through the Silver Age to the Bronze Age. We are now in the Iron Age, the darkest age, Kali Yuga. We have been moving further and further into darker epochs, and consciousness has been losing itself into materialism and darkness.
We are living in the worst of all possible worlds, in which there is still hope.
The good news is that we are just about to turn the corner. The galactic alignment of 2012 is the end of descending Kali Yuga, and we will turn the corner to begin the ascent phase towards the next golden age.
A human being is something that is unique in that it has its legs on earth, but it has a head that at least can look at heaven.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا
There is a period of time in schools in which boys and girls are fighting each other and cannot stand each other. After some time, at least they stop doing it. See, they become interested. Now that is a change of face. I mean, you are moving from one phase to another. Now, for groups of people, not for individuals, for group of people, to make these changes is a much longer period.
We're still in the religious struggles of human consciousness, but slowly moving towards the age of Aquarius in a so-called vacuum or change over from the influence of Pisces, which is basically religious. In religion, you cannot have religion without devotee. Most people are not interested in understanding religion, they're interested in devoting themselves to religion.
We listen so little, you know, and what we hear, we misinterpret. The wars that are going on now are religious wars, really. We don't all have to believe the same thing, but somehow we have to come to an affirmation of each other's belief system. And I think that's one of the things that will begin to emerge.
I was passing yesterday to a newly cut road. So it was bare rock about 5 years ago when they cut it. Now I see that in the cracks of the rock, plants are beginning to grow. Nobody put them there, but there were seeds flying all over, and some of them finds the most minor crack, and they begin to flourish. So in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, you will see the green wall where there was a bare rock.
Everything is spiritual. Everything has a spirit. Everything was brought to you by the Creator, the one Creator. Some people call him God, some people call him Buddha, some people call him Allah, some people call him other names. We call him Tonkashila, grandfather. few winters. Then we go to the spirit world. The spirit world is more real than most of us believe. The spirit world is everything.
Le troisième monde s'appelait Kuskusha, perdu à jamais. Une fois de plus, le peuple s'y installa. Les habitants se multiplièrent tant et si bien que des villes, des pays et toute une civilisation très avancée se développèrent. Hélas, ils utilisèrent leur pouvoir créatif de façon diabolique et destructrice. Ils construisirent les Patuvota, des boucliers magiques, et les firent voler dans les airs. Ils utilisèrent les Patuvota comme des armes et se livrèrent bataille. Voyant cela, Sotuknang ordonna aux élus de couper de grands arbres aux troncs creux, de se glisser à l'intérieur et de s'y enfermer hermétiquement. Il provoqua alors le déluge sur la terre. Des vagues aussi grandes que des montagnes roulaient sur le monde. Les continents se fissurèrent et coulèrent au fond des mers. Finalement, la tourmente cessa. Et lorsque les élus ouvrirent leurs abris scellés, ils se retrouvèrent sur un minuscule morceau de terre, au sommet de la plus haute montagne. Alentour s'étendait un immense océan. Les villes, jadis si fières, gisaient à présent au fond des mers. Telle fut la fin de Kuskusha, le troisième monde.
L'histoire du déluge est la plus répandue dans tous les anciens mythes. Dans la Bible, Noé survécut au déluge. Prévenu à temps, il put construire son arche. Des histoires similaires apparaissent dans presque toutes les religions du monde. On en retrouve même parmi les tribus et les peuples les plus isolés. Il est très possible qu'un déluge ait réellement existé. On a d'ailleurs détecté dans des échantillons prélevés au Groenland que la calotte glaciaire s'est mise à fondre il y a environ 9500 ans. Il n'est donc pas étonnant de rencontrer des récits de déluge dans les mythes si de tels événements se sont réellement produits.
Well, the Maya have a flood myth as well. It was the end of the previous world age was destroyed by Huracan, heart of heaven. It's a very interesting story that strangely speaks to our own dilemma today. Human beings alive during that world age, they had various utensils, but they did not give thanks for everything that they had. So their tools rose up against them and destroyed them. And then Huracan sent the flood over the earth to wipe it clean so we could begin again.
C'est au XIXe siècle que des anthropologues se rendent pour la première fois à Haute-Villa. Ils sont fascinés par la mystérieuse mythologie Hopi. Ils trouvent cependant les prophéties de la fin du monde un peu surréalistes, trop fantasques pour être vraies.
Il y aura des routes dans le ciel. Il y aura des maisons de fer mobiles. Il y aura des voitures sans chevaux. Les hommes pourront se parler dans l'espace. Le corps sacré de la femme ne sera plus respecté et beaucoup d'autres choses seront détournées de leur essence.
Why did the white man create all of these things? They make all of these trucks, cars, airplanes. We were warned not to have those, no conveniences.
En 1998, Dane Veema est morte à l'âge de 107 ans. Elle était la dernière indienne Hopi expatriée d'Oriabi. Aujourd'hui, il ne reste que quelques Hopi qui vivent encore selon les traditions et qui essaient de protéger Haute-Villa contre le développement maudit prédit dans les prophéties de Marshall. Ils craignent que la terre ne soit frappée par un nouveau désastre le jour où les derniers Hopis se soumettront au mode de vie des Blancs.
The issue is that Haute-Villa, in the mind of its foundation, is a shrine. It's a sacred place where the people live in loving concert with the earth. Their lives were meant to be lived in that simple way. They treated the earth in a good way. They treated each other in a good way. That was the very foundation and substance of Haute-Villa. When the government, the tribal council began to push through these so-called improvements of electricity and water, they did not want that. The old people wanted Haute-Villa to be left as this sacred shrine.
Manuel Monanga a décidé de préserver l'héritage de ses fiers ancêtres. En retrouvant le mode de vie originel des Hopis et en le transmettant à ses enfants, il espère conjurer, ou tout au moins retarder le grand chaos.
I decided to give up my truck and I quit my job too because I believe in him. And now I'm into building a stone house and it's almost completed so I can live simple life. I feel sad for the world. There's a lot of people in the world that's gonna get hurt, but they won't listen to me. So things are getting worse out there.
Under these mountains, they're just beds of coal. And this coal is being sluiced with millions of year-old aquifer under the land here. That coal gets sluiced over to Las Vegas, and which is a city that to me is a hallucinogenic nightmare because it's in an unnatural place, it's in a desert, consuming enormous amounts of energy, wasting water, a very, very vital resource of the earth that is diminishing. And it's a place to just go hallucinate.
Over 95% of our body is water. And in order to stay healthy, you've got to drink good water. When the European first came here, Columbus, we could drink out of any river. If the Europeans had lived the Indian way when they came, we'd still be drinking out of water because the water is sacred. The air is sacred. Our DNA is made of the same DNA as the tree. The tree breathes what we exhale. When the tree exhales, we need what the tree exhales. So we have a common destiny with the tree. We are all from the earth. And when the earth, the water, the atmosphere is corrupted, then it will create its own reaction. Mother is reacting. In the Hopi prophecy, they say the storms and floods will become greater.
Well, I think the hurricanes and the earthquakes and the volcanic action is part of the reaction of the earth. Wherever there is a disaster, there is a congregation of people from all over the world who come to help. I understand the Turkish people were astounded at all the people that descended on them to help at that time. They bring people together.
To me, it's not a negative thing to know that there will be great changes. It's not negative. It's evolution. When you look at it as evolution, it's time. Nothing stays the same.
Depuis que Darwin a écrit « De l'origine des espèces », les scientifiques sont convaincus que l'homme descend du singe.
We always say, that might be your ancestor, but it's not our ancestor. He is a relative, but not our ancestor.
Alors que les archéologues cherchent toujours le chaînon manquant entre le singe et l'homme, des découvertes sensationnelles ont été faites, prouvant que l'homme vivait déjà sur Terre il y a des millions d'années. À l'Étoli, au nord de la Tanzanie, on a retrouvé des fossiles d'empreintes de pieds. Dans le Nevada, on a découvert les restes fossilisés d'une sandale. Cette découverte étrange, qui montre clairement la ligne d'une chaussure, est datée de plus de 5 millions d'années. Ces découvertes sont difficiles à expliquer, mais après tout, peut-être est-il vrai que des créatures dotées d'intelligence ont foulé le sol de la Terre des millions d'années avant nous.
If we look at the evolution of civilization throughout the millenniums, the billions of years, our present civilization is called the fifth root race. There is a very strange name attached to it, which unfortunately was perverted by the Nazis. It is called the Aryan race. The race before it, the fourth root race, was called the race of Atlantis.
De nombreux livres ont décrit le continent légendaire de l'Atlantide. Platon a écrit qu'il était plus grand que l'Asie et la Libye réunies, mais il n'indique pas sa situation. Selon la légende, l'Atlantide était habitée par une civilisation hautement développée, en possession d'une technologie avancée. Suite à un terrible tremblement de terre, l'Atlantide s'enfonça dans l'océan et les quelques survivants s'enfuirent sur d'autres continents.
I firmly believe there was the civilization of Atlantis with telepathic powers, with connection to space travel, life on, in other galaxies, on other planets.
Si les survivants de l'Atlantide ont fondé les civilisations de l'Égypte, de la Grèce antique et d'Amérique, on peut évaluer le niveau de leurs connaissances astrologiques et mathématiques en étudiant les mystérieuses pyramides d'Égypte et du Mexique.
Maya epigraphers, those who decipher the Maya hieroglyphic language, are now able to read about 70% of the hieroglyphs. And it's telling us a great deal about Maya culture. Just their architectural achievements alone indicate that they were very sophisticated in terms of engineering huge blocks of stone into place in order for these very subtle astronomical alignments to take place. There is an unknown aspect to that alignment, and it indicates that the Pyramid of Kukulkan is a type of processional star clock.
Les deux séries de 91 marches de la pyramide de Kukulkan représentent le nombre de jours entre les équinoxes de printemps et d'automne. Elles symbolisent la période de l'année où le jour et la nuit sont de durée égale. À chaque équinoxe, on peut observer un phénomène surprenant. Lorsque les rayons du soleil éclairent le sommet de la pyramide, un serpent de lumière se forme, descendant tout le long de la pyramide jusqu'à la tête de serpent sculptée.
The ancient Egyptians and the ancient Vedic cosmology and many other native indigenous belief systems seem to have understood and prophesied about the times when these alignments would be taking place. And many traditions understand precession, including the Western astrological tradition, in which we are approaching the dawning of the age of Aquarius. They understand this large cycle as a type of collective human gestation. We are approaching the birth moment in that great cycle of gestation.
Humanity will be forced through a gate. We talk about free will, but what free will do we have? We can either go with the process or we can rebel. That's all. Inevitably, we'll have to go with it anyway.
It's not surprising to me that the stories of transformation of the world, renewal of the world, cataclysm, things like that, are becoming more important in every culture. Those stories were always there, but because of the time that we're in, those stories are becoming important to everybody in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been otherwise.
We are the anthropologists constantly studying the white man, the European. If they could see themselves through our eyes, they would see the ridiculous sides, they would see the feudal sides, they would see the mistakes. There is a great conflict building up. International security is a big problem because everybody has a nuclear bomb.
Les prophéties Hopi nous mettent en garde contre une mystérieuse pluie de cendres qui tomberait sur la Terre et dont les conséquences seraient désastreuses. Quand viendra ce jour, les Hopi devront accomplir la tâche qui leur a été confiée par Marshall il y a 900 ans.
When the atomic bomb was dropped, they knew it was time they had to come forth because forces of evil and destruction were being unleashed upon the earth.
Après Hiroshima et Nagasaki, les vieux Hopi se sont réunis pour choisir les 4 porte-paroles qui devront mettre en garde l'homme blanc de la Maison Blanche. Les prophéties parlent aussi d'une maison de mica, construite sur la côte est des États-Unis, où les représentants de chaque nation se rencontrent pour résoudre les problèmes du monde. C'est là que les porte-paroles Hopi devront se rendre si l'homme de la Maison Blanche ne les écoute pas.
Now, in the prophecies, they were told they would go 4 times to the man in the White House. And if he turned you away, did not invite you into his house, then you would have to go to the house of Micah. And there are different interpretations how they describe that. But who knew hundreds of years ago there was going to be a UN?
Les Hopis ont patienté 44 ans pour être entendus. C'est grâce à Charles Lorenz qu'ils ont finalement été reçus dans la maison de Micah.
We just called the wife of Boutros Boutros-Ghali, who was then the head of the UN. And it was that moment of the window being open that we got on the calendar.
Thomas Benyaka est le seul membre encore en vie de la délégation originelle. Il a vécu assez longtemps pour voir ce grand jour. Selon la prophétie, la délégation devait se composer de 4 personnes. Benyaka nomma donc 3 autres représentants, dont Manuel Monunga.
In 1992, we went there and we give our Hopi prophecy, Hopi message over there that that was the last warning. If we don't stop these things, then the world will get out of balance.
But very, very few people showed up to witness. Very few countries represented. And on one hand, it was a shame, but they got in and they stood in that place and told their story.
We give them 4 days, 4 months, 4 years to come and investigate. But it didn't happen. They didn't come.
The wind never stops out here, you know? And the desert sand never stops blowing. But what happens down the road when there is no water? What happens when these things begin to happen? They're all predicted, and the signs are there. What then?
Le 5e monde est à nos portes. Il sera habité par les humbles des petites nations et par les minorités raciales. On peut lire tout cela dans la terre elle-même. Les semences de plantes des anciens mondes commencent à sortir. Ceux qui resteront à l'écart des divisions idéologiques du monde seront prêts à vivre dans le 5e monde. Quelle que soit leur race, ils ne feront qu'un. Ce moment n'est pas loin. Il viendra quand le Sakwashusha Kachina dansera sur la place, représentant une étoile bleue qui apparaîtra bientôt.
I think we can be of great help in this crisis. Awareness is so important, and the awareness that this is a crisis, but and a turning point, a shift, but also a tremendous opportunity that we're entering an entirely new cycle, and all that we can take into it is the best of the old and let the rest of it go. I'm very optimistic and enthusiastic about what will come. I think things will be very much different, but I know that we can handle it. We can all handle it because we have to. That's my feeling.
I think people will pretty soon start making a mental shift. They'll stop feeling like they're at the end of something and start feeling like they're at the beginning of something. And that's what I want to be a part of.
You should learn how to plant something. That's the first connection. You should treat all things as spirit. Realize that we are one family. It's never something like the end. Just like life, there is no end to life.